As I'm getting up there, I see the lights coming. 253 stitches. Those guys were the crew of Sammy Gravano. You'll never find me saying anything illegal on the phone. So in walks Shaun Attwood. You'll call me tomorrow and tell me if you want to cooperate or not. Deal. Stuck out my hand. He didn't know he was shaking to. He had no idea what he was shaking to. I think we all have incidents in our life that change us. When I was 5 years old, I was my birthday, and I was walking outside. I remember looking at my birthday cake and walked outside, and we had a pit bull out back. His name was Tarsus. He was on the chain for the first time in probably the summer. Hot summer day out. It's hot as hell in Arizona, probably like 120 degrees. And I walked out back, and he had his face in his bowl and just turned around and boom, hit me like a ton of bricks. And so I don't know if you can see this scar right here.
Right.
Ended up hitting me and biting me pretty good. Ended up getting rushed to the hospital and 253 stitches.
Oh.
Completely ripped my face apart. I think these moments change our life significantly. I actually don't have a picture of myself looking back without this scar. It's basically my memory of myself. You know what I mean? And I'm actually happy because, as you'll hear in the story going through life, we all become who we are by, I think, certain defining moments. And that was a little one that was going to set the course for me. Growing up with a big ass scar on your face and growing up not as big as the other kids was something that always pushed me to want to try a little harder. You know what I mean? So in our little town, as in many towns across the United States,
right,
people bring in many different things. And this time they brought in psychedelics. And for me, it was red sunshine with some psychedelic. And I tried it, and it was an amazing experience. You seem to go over everything that you already know. Your mind is at a state that you seem to be going over everything that you already know. You can't think about, let's put it this way, you can't think about anything that you haven't already thought of. So in your mind, you'll probably be going back over, for whatever reason, things that you already know as you're doing them. I get in the car, I do this, I say hello to my friend. And you start to realize in a more present way that you're doing something. And you may realize that you're doing something in a way because you're doing it in a more present way that maybe you're doing it in a way that is either incorrect for how you feel. It's a contemplative substance,
right.
And so I would say it presents the journey inward. I thought it was very interesting. And so probably for the next few periods, like a month and another month or weekends, me and my friends we would trip. We would all get together and trip. And I ended up meeting a guy by the name of Maya that came to town. And he then was supplying the entire town.
Okay, so are you selling? Did you start selling it?
Well,
or
so that's kind of the window right there. So I'm hanging out with the guys. I'm not really, I'm not just involved having a good time, just on the peripherals.
Just a kid.
Yeah, just a kid, And I meet Maya. Well, Maya is a serious dealer. Now he's only a year and a half older than me, but Maya's living on his own. Maya's from the Northwest, Washington, San Francisco area, and he's dealing significant amounts. I started picking up sheets from him because, again, at the time you could probably get a sheet for $200. That's $2 a piece because you're getting 100 units at the time.
So this is $5.
So $5. So this is my introductory to business school at the time. Started selling just single hits to people. There's little parties on the weekend. We got little bonfire parties and stuff like that. But I'm not the type of guy to break it up and to put it into little baggies or anything like that because I'm risk averse.
Right.
A lot of people like to take risks. Just like my father, incredibly risk averse. You think that people that do things that are, risky, they either do it in a stupid way or they do it in a calculative way. I lean more towards the calculative way. Okay. If I can't get it done within the high 90th percentile, I'm not touching it. If I don't have at least 89% of, in my head, and I factor in all the factors, that I'm not even looking at it. And then I'd usually be in the high 90th percentile success rate where I feel like I can do something. So start breaking it down. But I don't do it like everybody else. I'll keep it in my book at school, but I'll break them up into little pieces and have them already ready. And only have a certain amount on me. Exposure. Always wanted to just risk, even as a kid, I'm risk averse, not trying to get into any trouble, So
yeah, you're thinking, so just to be clear, you're thinking I I want to have an amount that says I'm a user and not a dealer.
Yeah, if I just have enough that I go to school with and I have enough to get through the day, and I can get rid of it quickly, and I've got it broken up into pieces that are ready to serve. It's a little piece of paper for anybody who has never seen it. It's not coming in liquid at the time, and typically is not distributed that way, unless you're getting it from somebody that's really in the scene, and it's actually very difficult to lay and to work with. So paper is much more convenient. So these little pieces of paper, and I would break it up. And I remember in my mythology book, I had a mythology book, and I would break it up into there, and people would come and see me in the courtyard, break it up, and they'd be like, what do I do with it? You take it. You know what I mean? You take it right now. And I could easily just get rid of it, So this is my little introductory. People are now tripping at school. And basically getting people to experience it. Some people would freak out without a doubt. Some people couldn't handle it. Some people didn't understand that it was changing their perspective or that they were seeing things in a different light. It doesn't make you see things. You don't start to manufacture visions. It just starts to kind of twist your brain a little bit to where you're thinking in different ways. So long story short, I like the fact that I can make a little bit of money with it, but we're also getting into swag at the time. Mexican brick that comes across the border. So for me, my first lesson was getting a pound of weed and learning about breaking it down. Okay. So you get a pound of weed, that's 64 quarters. You could sell those for $20 a piece. And if you can break that down, you're at $12.40. So you take a $600 pound that you can get typically on front, because again, that's the way the system works. You know what I mean? Because there's so much of it. Right. People are looking typically to front it. So I remember getting my first pound from a guy by the name of Joel Chamberlain. And the only names that I'll mention today are people that are passed away, right? Essentially. But Joel was the first person that I got a pound from. He was a friend of mine's older brother. He was also in the scene doing his thing, but I didn't really deal with him. But he was a friend of my older brother's, and so he knew I was cool. So anyways, ended up getting my first pound from him and breaking it down. And I thought I was going to be... Again, this is the first little step to being, I guess, an entrepreneur. I thought I'm going to do it different. Everybody sells a 7 gram sack. That's there's 448 grams in a pound. So 7 grams, 64. I say I'm going to do an 8 gram. So I'm going to give just an extra gram to everybody. A little marketing because everybody else sells the same one. Right. But I want to do something a little bit different. So I do that, but I don't realize that if I do that, I'm losing out essentially a percentage. So if you break that down already, I'm maybe 20% down. So then I'm going to smoke some. Me and my friends are going to roll up the big blunts, and by the time I'm all done with it, even though I think I'm doing good marketing, I'm probably just going to make enough money to pay the guy back. Right. So end up going through that for a little while. And despite the fact that I'm trying to come up and trying to do well, I'm not really doing anything. Right. So, end up moving along and getting into, this is where the rave scene starts to happen a little bit more. Now I'm in high school, probably my junior year, and we're going to rave parties. Psychedelics are a big thing, so we're all going to the rave parties. Everybody's doing psychedelics. I'm not really, I've sold some. I'm not a dealer at this point, really. I'm just, doing my thing. End up getting into the scene a little bit and connecting with a friend by the name of RJ. He has a connect with a guy that he works with and funds him to do certain projects. Mm-hmm. RJ's out in the streets, and this guy is kind of behind the scenes. And the reason I'm mentioning him is because I'll end up working with this guy later on. So I end up hanging out with RJ. And RJ, we go to Tucson, maybe sometimes on trips to pick up trash bags full of bricks. Right. Interesting things about picking up weight. Counting money. The first time I'm ever learning to count lots of money. So we're sitting there counting thousands and thousands of dollars in his car. I remember him telling me, face it. I'm like, what do you mean face it? You got to face the bills. Got to face the bills. Won't take it unless it's faced. I'm like, bank? But yeah, apparently face the bills. You know what I mean? That's the first thing I learned is in the industry is you face all your bills. You know what I mean?
I don't know what that means.
You take
put them face the face
like
up.
A bank. Yeah. Like a bank would want them. Okay. You face them. You flip the bill face over because if it's all mixed, even if it's the same denomination, They just don't take it like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure why. You know what I mean? It's just, but I guess, the bank,
OCD is
a
fine.
professional, you know what I mean? A little professionalism, So the first time I'm learning, you know what I mean, counting, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 in the back, and then boom, we're rolling back with the trash bag. No, I'm just a kid. I have no vested interest in this. I'm just hanging out with my friend. We're just cruising, but there's a trash bag literally sitting in the back of the car, because if you get pulled over, it doesn't matter if it's in the trunk or if it's in the back. You're done. You're done. You might as well have it in the seat next to you. You know what I mean? Like, you're done. You know what I mean? And it's actually hilarious because RJ would at times, of course, if we were carrying weight, drive normal. At other times, when we sometimes have weight, you know what I mean? He'd be pulling 4-lane changes in Phoenix. I don't know if you've like, you know what I mean? Without, just blatantly, you know what I mean? Driving kind of crazy. Just a wild kid. Me and RJ end up linking up in Phoenix with his guy named Schoolie. He was a type of guy that used to throw rave parties down in Phoenix. And
we talk a lot about crime on this show, but let's face it, some of the biggest crimes are committed by the government. You've heard the story before. Big Pharma swoops in to take control. Now, the FDA is trying to reclassify NMN, a natural compound in foods like broccoli and avocados, as a pharmaceutical drug. Why? Because NMN is so effective, they want to turn it into a pricey drug, keeping its health benefits out of the reach of most people. It's likely they're setting the stage for Big Pharma to profit, making it hard for us to access something that could dramatically support our life. The truth is, I lost over a decade in federal prison, so I want to stay as healthy as long as possible. I'm 55 years old, and I'm not ready to slow down. I stay active, eat right, and do all the things that we're supposed to do, but that only gets you so far. That's when I started looking for an NMN supplement, something backed by real science. After some research, I found Cell Being by Verso. It's loaded with NMN, resveratrol, and TMG. These ingredients work together and are proven to boost your NAD levels, which basically is the fuel that powers the trillions of cells in your body. I've been taking Cell Being for a while now, and I've noticed a huge change. I feel sharper, more energized, and just younger. While NMN was recognized as a safe supplement, the FDA made a decision that will make it harder for you and me to get this powerful compound unless we're willing to pay pharmaceutical prices. It makes you wonder who's really benefiting from this change. Don't wait until it's too late to support your body with something that could change the way you age. Click the link in the description box or head over to Verso, ver.so, and use the promo code COX for 15% off your first order. Get it while you still can and take control of your health before the FDA and Big Pharma take it out of your hands.
So we're connected with the guys that are essentially throwing the events down in Phoenix. And we would go down there, and I would just go with RJ and deliver packs, which is essentially packs of mushrooms, pounds of mushrooms, and or GHB at the time. For a period of a year and a half, I'm with RJ every day. And we're just, we're either going to rave parties in California, meeting people, going to Tucson, just cruising around, he's dealing and I'm hanging out with him, enjoying ourselves. So we end up going to Schoolie's house. And, when you're in a situation that can immediately turn bad. Mm-hmm. So we're in a house, and I know this guy is one of the main dudes in Phoenix. Well, not a house, we're an apartment, but I know he's one of the main dudes. And he's no longer alive, this guy Schoolie. He's passed away as well. But sitting there, and we've just brought in, I think RJ has two gallons of the GHB, which was conspicuously brought in these moonshine containers.
Right.
So it doesn't look like, you know what I mean?
So it looks like something else that's illegal.
Or like you could put kombucha in or something, you know what I mean? But they're very conspicuous. They're like, I don't know if you've ever seen a moonshine container, that these big, thick, kind of like cement looking, huge casks, in walks Shaun Attwood.
Oh, okay.
There you go. And so Schoolie is his guy. And I think he's referred to him as Skinner. I've never heard him refer to him as Schoolie, but Schoolie, we call him Schoolie because he had Schoolhouse Productions, which was an event company that would throw these rave parties. So in walks Shaun Attwood, bald head. People would call him English Shaun. We used to refer to him as British Shaun. And I'll clarify again, because Brits don't like to be called English because they're British, not English, So he walks in, lambskin jacket, bald head, and immediately him and Schoolie go into the kitchen, and he pops out 13 ounces of peach glass. I don't know, which is the earliest of amphetamine at the time, like, which is what everybody's probably, I'm not in that scene at all, but he whips it out and says, oh, I just got this 13 ounces. He just flew back from Los Angeles. So he was just flying back from one of his connects that he used to have his main connects out there, I'm sure, for his other guys. Not trying to put you on blast, Shaun. I know your career is already done and you're on to bigger and better things, but I remember you recalling and saying how it smelled like peaches and was stinking up the plane. And it did. It literally, you could, the odor, you know?
Right.
So I'm sitting in this apartment, just waiting for the door to get kicked in, because this is the type of apartments you're just waiting for somebody to kick in the door with a shotgun.
Right.
Because they know that you live there and they know that you have plenty of drugs on hand at any given time.
So you're not thinking the cops, you're thinking...
Oh, like, yeah. Not the cops at all. I'm sitting there thinking, I want to get the out of here because I know exactly, I mean, at any time. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, he ended up getting rolled later on in the bathroom of a club. I think...
Who did?
Schoolie. Yeah,
okay.
he got his teeth knocked out over about, I think it was about 5 or 6 G's, because I remember meeting up with him, his girlfriend, and RJ. Well, me and RJ, but Schoolie didn't want to, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like this, you know what I'm saying? With his girlfriend and their black Mercedes, that black Mercedes 2-door, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Anyways, so later on, probably 3 months later, we're in a club called Club Freedom. So I'm hanging out with my good friend GP at the time, God rest his soul, and RJ and my girlfriend Jessica at the time. And we're there enjoying ourselves, having a good old time. My friend GP is wearing this J5 shirt, Jurassic 5, this hip hop group shirt. And it's like a blue shirt with a big yellow J5 on the back. So it just kind of gets a lot of attention, right? And so he comes up to me and he says, hey, this dude came up to me and said he wanted to buy some pills. Well, I don't have any pills, but I know RJ does. You know what I mean? And so he's like, does RJ have any? I was like, well, yeah. So, you got it? He's like, yeah, okay, cool. So I said, go over and talk to him and find out what he wants. So he goes over and he talks to him, and the dude's like, yeah, his pills. You know what I mean? So I said, talk to him over there, but don't bring him over here. Mm-hmm. Right? Next thing you know, I look up and the dude's standing there with my friend. And my friend GP, I'm not exactly sure why, but, and I'm not sure why he brought him over, and likely the guy saw that we were over there. It's like a 2-story club, and he's on one side. It's like a big opening. You know what I mean? Because of the dance floor. Yeah. And so we're on the perimeter. We're on one side, and he's on the other. Anyways, he comes over, and it's this big old dude, right? He's like, yeah, I'll get some pills. And I was like, so looked at RJ, and he's like, that. And so I was like, well, how many can I get? And I was like, how many you want? And he's like, how many you got? Now, this is when you're a kid and anybody asks you that question, you got to be about the dumbest person to answer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah. How many you got? Okay. You know what I mean? I like your shoes. What size are they? You know what I mean? I'm about to take them off you. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, but, young. So how many you got? Or just like, I've got about 200 on me. You know what I mean? It's like, you got 200. He's like, 20 piece, and boom. Okay, 4. You know what I mean? Agree to 4 G's. 4.
Right.
Would just be you don't $4,000. You just say 4. You know what I mean? Okay, boom.
See, I would be thinking police.
No, like not thinking police. You know what I mean? Yeah. The tattoos. You know what I mean? And this is at the 90s, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, even now, all
law enforcement they have tattoos.
Yeah, military. Yeah, hell yeah. You know what I mean? And they're your best friend, and they're the dude at the bar, by the way. So you know what I mean? I'm telling you, right. they're you know what I mean?
So he counts out $4,000.
No. He grabs my wrist, puts his hand on my wrist like this, and says, "I'm an undercover cop.
See?
The police are outside."
This isn't true though. It's all bullshit. Sorry.
You're coming with me. And I look at him, and I'm holding the pills in my hand in a cellophane. A cigarette cellophane goes about this tall. Uh-huh. Holding all the pills to the top, unsealed. You could seal the cellophane back in the day? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're probably in prison. They probably seal it and keister it. I don't know what to do with it. But anyways, I'm just joking.
Right.
But anyways, I'm holding the pill, and it's open, and he's got his hand on me. And I just say, what pills? And I just go like this with my hand. No motion, just drop them. And you can just see all the and I didn't tell, I just dropped it. You know what I mean? What pills? And immediately my friend GP, my man right now, put his hand on his wrist. So get your hand off my friend. And immediately, we're in the club, there's like tons of people around. Immediately, I slipped and turned, right? Had just enough time to get out of there, right? Boom. And I don't know what's happening right now, my friend GP. But it was just long enough to distract them because they didn't go at it or anything. And then boom, I'm upstairs, run down the thing, dip downstairs, and I go downstairs and I see this at the dance floor. Everybody's dancing. I know I can't. I see the corridor to get out. There's no way. Like, I know that I still am thinking if I try to go out there, he could have a dude out there. I mean, like, why wouldn't you have somebody run a point?
Right.
You
well,
know,
are you thinking he was a cop at this point?
No, not at all. No, dude, no, bullshit. I could tell the dude, they're outside. No, that. You know what I mean? You know, you could feel it.
You came in here by yourself, right?
You could feel it. You know what I mean? He had another dude standing with him.
Oh, did he?
Oh, no, it wasn't just him. No, there was two dudes. You know what I mean? Like, but that dude had kind of he wasn't standing with him when we first came up.
Right.
But once he had his hand on me, that dude all of a sudden was there. You know what I mean? So anyway, I ran downstairs and I was out and got down to the bottom and I saw a guy that I knew. And this is actually hilarious because, again, I wasn't a dealer at the time. I had tried to sell and I'd done it at school, but I tried to sell it once at a rave party and I wanted to go dance. I got into breakdancing and seriously into the music and, you know, it was just more into the culture, right? So I saw this kid, his name is John or Johnny, I can't recall his name. He's wearing an Adidas hat and I'm like, dude, I'm in some shit right now. I'm not the type of guy to be in, just trying to explain to him, I'm not the guy. I'm not usually the guy because I'm not, you know, my friend RJ, I'm not the guy that's dealing constantly at the shows, but I need your hat right now. You know what I mean? And he gave me his hat. It was like this blue Adidas hat. And back in the day, ravers, we used to always wear our hats this. So I put it on and just started, you know what I mean? Just dancing, boom. And then I see dudes swarming all around on the dance floor, looking for me. They think that I'm somewhere in the club because I haven't left yet. You know what I mean? And I'm dancing. And then I see them dip and kind of go the other way and I get a clear and I just break for it. Get outside of my friend's car. RJ's out there. GP is, I don't know what he is. And my girlfriend, I'm like, go back and get the pills. She's like, where are the pills? I'm like, they're on the floor. She goes back inside and she's crawling around the floor with some girl. And everybody's dancing. I have no idea. And there's hundreds of pills on the floor. And she's crawling on the floor trying to get all the pills back. You know what I mean? She ends up getting 80 of them back. You know what I mean? And
out of 200.
Yeah. Oh God. You know what I mean? It was my friend took an L. You know what I mean on that one, you know? But just crazy stories. And it turns out those guys are the same guys that rolled Schoolie. Those guys were also, interestingly enough, the crew of Sammy the Bull Gravano's sons, as you know, the most famous guy that was a hitman for John Gotti, living in Scottsdale at the time, running the ring. He was rolling all the dealers in all the clubs and taking market share. And we were just one of the kids that after that, you got pills in the club and roll you.
Was he on, was he in witness protection at the time?
He was in the witness protection program. This is way before any of this came out. He's in the witness protection program. His sons are running a crew. I don't know exactly what the situation was with these dudes. Obviously, they were his son's crew. You know what I mean? Shaun had speculated there were some biker dudes that may be contracted out.
Right.
He said his name was Gordon because I asked the dude what his name was. He said Gordon.
Who knows?
Yeah. Maybe. I mean,
did those guys ever get arrested that you know of?
I assume that their entire crew,
they were part of the whole.
Yeah, I assume that all those guys rolled on each other and, you know what I mean? So after graduating high school, I say, well, you know, I want to grow kind bud. What if I do? What's going to happen? I might as well look up the laws and find out. So if I grow over 99 plants, it's federal. Now I'm looking at 20 plus years. If I grow under that and I have a certain amount of weight, then I'm looking at state laws. I'm looking at in a zero tolerance state, Arizona in the 1990s, pre-medical. 2 to 5 for your first offense if you get caught with over 10. You know what I mean? I know it's nothing. It's child's play. You know what I mean? I can do that. Matt did that standing on his head.
It's not worth unpacking.
I know, seriously. You know what I mean?
You're still shitting. You're still shitting McDonald's by the time you get out.
There you go. So I decided to find out what the limits were and really what I was getting myself into. Because you always want to, look before you leap. Most people don't, but I'm the type of person, again, incredibly calculative. I'm going to come back to look before you leap. You know what I'm saying? So I go into this endeavor with a friend of mine. at first we were growing small plants, and then we learned to grow trees. That's what I learned, essentially. If you take a plant through its full life cycle and a cutting, put it in a cutting chamber for about 2 weeks, you pull it out and veg it for 2 months, you can get a plant that's going to be about this tall. It's going to double its size based on the variety. It could triple it, depending on indica or sativa. But in this case, we're growing an Afghani-based indica. We're going back to the Afghani we were talking about, these Afghan genetics. And the strain was called Blueberry. And it was essentially the first, some of the first strains that were developed specifically for cancer and for people with end-of-life cancer pain, because it was that strong that overtaking morphine, you could use this cannabis. And you could still function, though. Long story short, I start to learn the cultivation process. And now, of course, we've got to sell it as we start to grow it. We've got to figure out who to sell it to. Now, of course, I know plenty of people, but I know a couple of guys that I feel can take on the opportunity. And again, I'm not the type of person to just go, I'm not 16 anymore. I'm not selling sacks. I'm not that type of person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm well past that. I'm already past the quarter,
Well, how much are you producing?
Well, in the beginning, our first plant, we probably got 2 pounds off of, or not a plant, our first set of plants, maybe 4 plants, we got 2 pounds off, maybe 8 ounces off each plant.
Right.
But the key was finding somebody to distribute it to, because if you could even find a pound of kind bud in 2001 in Arizona,
right, it was
in one place,
super expensive.
Super expensive. It would have been $4,800 minimum. You know what I mean? For me, I found 2 guys that I knew, these twins, and I won't mention their names. They're twins, and really solid dudes. And I would only bless them with it, straight up. These are the only guys that I would deal with. So as just a younger person, I mean, let's see here, 78, 88, 98. I'm 20, just 20 at the time, and working at a restaurant, still doing my thing, obviously. But then now I've got these 2 guys that'll take pounds off of me for $4,000 a piece. And I'm giving them a good deal, you know what I mean, at $4,000 a piece. And so I end up working with them for the next probably 6 months to a year as we build things up. And these are the type of guys that are dependable, type of guys you want to deal with. Type of guys, when you do a deal with them, maybe you leave a nice gesture. My friend used to like to drink Bombay. He used to like gin, so I bring him a bottle of Bombay Sapphire gin. Do good business, right?
Right.
Have a little bit of respect, a little bit of love in it. So we move on. We're doing great with the operation, and it's my first taste of success. Getting into that 5-6 figures, you know what I mean? Which is great, for just some guys that are making money, 4 or 5 pounds, doing our little every bi-monthly thing. They're picking up 2 pounds. For me to see, to see $10,000 from a bank is one thing. You see $10,000 just getting a quick payment, $10,000 in the streets is like this.
What do you mean to see 10,000 from a bank?
From a bank, 10,000 is like, it's that.
Okay.
10,000 in the streets is like this.
Oh, okay. Because it's ones and fives.
There's
and
not
tens.
ones, but it's 5s and 10s and 20s and some 50s, and hopefully give me some hundreds. But hey, they weren't paying in hundreds. You know what I mean? It's that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I was going, and it felt good to be a young guy.
Yeah, that's why it's always, whenever you see these guys with the duffel bags, and they say it's $1 million, and it's a duffel bag this fucking big.
It's not.
Like
$1 million. No, it stacks like this high.
Yeah.
It's not that much at all. It's
I was gonna say we had 6.
It's 110 stacks.
Yeah, we had 6 or 7.
110 stacks will stack out
100,000 and probably a shoebox. But it was all hundreds. So
yeah.
But it's always, you ever watch a movie and they have like 2 duffel bags, like $1 million?
Oh yeah, the weight. Yeah, that's got to be like 3 or 4 million. You know what I mean? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you just weigh it. I mean, as you know, a bill weighs a gram.
Right.
A bill weighs a gram. You just weigh it at that point in time.
So, how long do you get in more houses?
Not at this time. So this is my first introduction, but I have learned at this time how to be an A-grade cultivator. I'm putting out some of the best product in Arizona, without a doubt. I mean, there's probably nobody touching what I'm doing, and I'm doing it with love. See, my girlfriend comes back from New York. She doesn't want to be in New York anymore. 9/11's happened.
Right.
She decides that it will be like the next summer or something, I think, which would be about right timing. She decides she wants to come back. And so she's going to live with me, but we're growing. So lay down some foundational rules about growing and doing anything illegal.
Don't live there?
Well, you kind of have to in this case. Well, you kind of have to. You have to have somebody living there, which I would learn later on. Okay, you have to have somebody living there.
Right.
All right. Which I would get that. I would pick up on that one. But if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself.
Okay.
And I do know that. You know what I mean, without a doubt. So she comes back, and we're living together. And I've been with her for 4 years at this time. 5 years, 4 or 5 years. I'm totally in love. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I was in love with this girl. My hun friend occasionally would have to pick her up or something from work or something if I was busy doing something or on a run maybe, right?
Right.
Because he worked daytime landscaping, he'd right down the road from where you pick her up, So my friend, who was not attractive at all, somehow thinks that my girlfriend is going to like him.
Right.
So he starts to fall in love with her. You know what I mean? We're all living together and he's falling in love with my girlfriend. But my girlfriend at the time, as we're getting closer to a large harvest, started feeling more uneasy about staying at the house.
Right.
Because there's a lot of illegal activity going on. I mean, nobody's coming over. And here's a few rules. If you have a grow house, nobody comes over. Nobody comes over. Yeah. You don't have friends. I had my friend GP I mentioned. Mm-hmm. He was kind of wondering, my best friend, why I hadn't invited him to my new house for a year. It was starting to get kind of
what's going on? Yeah.
Hey, I'm up in the village. I was just doing a job. I was going to drop by. Nah, man. You know what I mean?
Not a good time.
Yeah, sorry. And a girl would be something I would completely recommend against. Never have a girlfriend while you're doing it either. Because I've seen the girl get with another dude and then you're getting robbed. Or the girl, something happens and you're getting rolled over. You're police, you know what I mean? It's again, taking things out of the equation. And I was with this girl for years, and she had been, she was a quote unquote roll dog. So she was not gonna, you know what I mean, do any of that stuff. And she certainly wasn't the type to do anything like that. But she ended up moving back to my parents' house temporarily, which was 10 miles away. Mm-hmm. And then she felt awkward just staying kind of at my parents. So she ended up moving back to her parents' house. She's living down in Phoenix at the time. And I ended up hooking up with this girl. Brought the girl back to the house. I just wanted to be with a girl. My girl wasn't there. You know what I mean? But I was lonely. You know what I mean? And to my fault, I brought another girl back. We weren't together, but we were together. You know what I mean? Still in spirit. And you know what I mean? But she, I made that mistake, and I did not have sex with her. But my friend, before I could tell her, because again, I was ready to marry this girl. And I remember talking to a friend of mine. I'm like, I got to tell her I want to marry this girl. He's like, don't tell her. My other friend was like, don't tell her. And I'm like, I got to tell her. I'm going to marry this girl. I want to be totally upfront with her and tell her that I brought this girl back into my room. I didn't have sex, but I did play around with her. You know what I mean? He ends up trying to probably proclaim his love for her. She does not hook up with him. He tells her that I have hooked up with this other girl. I do not have a chance to even be honest, because I think I'm being honest with her when I tell her, but she already knows.
Right.
And so I completely ruined that relationship, and I learned a great deal about honesty. We're, again, a year and a half into this operation. We're just ready to clock our largest harvest, probably 25 grand. You know what I mean? Maybe, I don't know, a good 6 pounds or something like that. Maybe 24, probably 6 pounds. Long story short, I come into the room and the whole room has been taken down. All the plants we're 30 days away, because it's a 60-day cycle,
right,
in the main room. And he has taken down all the plants, killed them all. He didn't save a single, he did it while I was at work. He didn't do it. He didn't save a single genetic. And how hard I'd worked to get those genetics and pheno hunt those genetics and essentially isolate. And we went 6 generations in, because essentially every time you take a clone from a clone from a clone and you're selecting from the best batch, mm-hmm, you're isolating the best genetics from the plant.
Why did he do it?
Because I didn't know. He had already told her and proclaimed his love for her and blah, 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 and knew that it was going to come down with me and knew that I was going to be leaving. that maybe I would call the cops on him. I don't know what he was thinking. You know what I mean? Like, he was probably thinking that I would get pissed and like rat him out for the operation. He knew the operation had to be done because he was doing some behind the back stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, so yeah, I was devastated and couldn't get those genetics. Periodically leading up to 2010, I probably ran 2 or 3 different houses where I would find somebody, I would set them up, I would bring in the genetics, pay for all of the equipment, and say, you grow it, you cultivate it. We'll come in at the end, we'll trim it, and we're going to split it 50-50, and I'll move all the product, and I'll bring you back the 50%. You know what I mean? So a good deal on both sides, but one has a huge risk factor on one side, and one has a huge risk factor on the other. The person that's growing it should never be selling it. If you're the grower, never, ever should you be the seller. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because
so what happened with those other operations? They worked out?
Oh, yeah, they went all right. I mean, some dudes take some pills and they f up and they don't know how to water correct. And it's never, ever, ever perfect. And now, yeah, I mean, you're depending on other people. The Stoics have a philosophy. Are you familiar? You probably read some philosophy. Yeah, Stoic philosophy. Yeah, I'm sure you read a lot of philosophy. If it depends on someone else, it gets 0% of my attention. If it depends on me, it gets 100% of my attention.
Okay.
And if that makes sense in a quick, short narrative for you, you know what I mean? Depending on others is and can be an Achilles. That's why services are so difficult to scale.
If you sleep hot at night, you know how disruptive that can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above. That's where GhostBed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, GhostBed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts to your body's temperature, every Ghost Bed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firm option with exceptional support, your Ghost Bed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a Ghost Bed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for 101 nights, risk-free, to make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping, and most items are shipped within 24 hours. If you're not sure which Ghost Bed is right for you, check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get a personalized recommendation. Even better, our listeners can get 50% off site-wide for a limited time. Just visit ghostbed.com/Cox and use the code COX at checkout. Again, that's ghostbed.com/Cox with the code COX at the checkout to save a whopping 50% off site-wide.
But to move on with the grow houses, again, depending on other people is a challenge. So off and on, I would mess with it, the grow houses and keep a couple going. But again, 2 to 3 people that were semi-dependable throughout time, moving on. So my real opportunity came out of a bit of interesting tragedy. So in 2008-9, the love for cultivation came back a little bit. I had some opportunity to get some really good genetics. I was working with some guys that were cultivating at the time. They were getting amazing genetics. And I had lost the last genetics that I'd had. Because again, to start from seed and to do all that is such a, so you've really got to get verified genetics from somebody that puts out a good crop, So I met some friends through my brother when he was out at the time, and they had amazing genetics, and they were some of the best, working on some of the best cultivated genetics in Arizona at the time. So I ended up getting some of these genetics, and I started working with them, but at the time I had an opportunity to link back up. Remember how I mentioned the guy with my friend RJ, his guy? There was a dealer that would fund my guy.
Oh, right.
We'll call him an angel. He had an angel, right? Okay. And this angel investor.
Yeah,
we'll call him, right?
Angel investor.
He would fund him to the tune of, tens of thousands of dollars to pick up product, and RJ would do that. Well, RJ ended up developing a huge ketamine habit. I ended up getting in touch with his guy through a friend of mine. I ended up start moving some product in our town, and then I end up going out for a little pickup to start to pick up a little bit more. And again, I like to say that I don't like to do things in in any way that I think I can get in trouble for doing them. Let's say, calculative, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Take all the risk out of it. So I could have easily just went out to California. A person, let's say, let's put this in the third person. A person could easily go out to California and pick up 20 or 30 pounds of chronic.
Right.
Worth, final street, 100K, 100 and something plus. You know what I mean? Now, they could drive back with it. And chances are you're probably not going to get pulled over. You can get a rental car, you can dress nice, of which I learned from people to do that. You definitely don't want to look the part, as we talked about.
Did you get pulled over?
Oh no! A person might do that, but I would never do that. I would never drive. That is because even the chance. Let's just the one time you could do 100 runs,
right?
But the one time they catch you, you're going to pay back for all those runs. So I got to go out and pick up some weight. So I go out to see my guys, and I go out and I have some very good friends out in LA that are willing to host me so I can have a house to place to pick up the weight.
Okay.
Right? They're very kind, lovely people. I love you guys. You know who you are. My friend has once called me the Walter White of cannabis. That's kind of affectionately what he notes me as, with my exploits and past exploits with not only cultivating specifically and moving into the research as a medical hemp researcher. But that's now. We'll talk about then. So moving to pick up the 20 pack, a little introductory lesson in just picking up weight. So you got to go meet the guys. They pull up in a car. You're meeting people you have never met before, right? As they pull up, two dudes get out. Hippie looking black dude, just wearing it. You know what I mean? His name's Peace.
Right.
Okay. You know what I mean? And I won't mention the other dude's name because that's his God-given name. So anyways, I meet Peace and Friend.
Right.
Which like kind of like number two. The one dude was basically like a number two to my dude. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They do all the major distribution. They meet the guys that then fan out from LA across the United States and distribute all the product.
Right.
So dudes show up, meet them. You look at each other to make sure you're good. You give each other a hug. You feel each other out. You know what I'm saying? You're not just, because you're really, everybody's trying to feel out the situation. And you can just tell. I'm sure you can tell, right? With somebody's being...
No, I had a wire worn on me. And
no, you didn't.
Like 10 minutes. It took me about 10, 15 minutes to realize.
But after you start thinking back.
If I had walked in the room thinking it, I would have caught on right away.
Well, here's a lesson for you. Everybody is wearing a wire.
Right. That's how I feel.
No, I'm going to tell you right now. And if you're even doing anything illegal, and this is why if anybody that's watching this wants to go back 15 years, you'll never find me saying anything illegal on the phone. Mm-hmm. Never. It's either I'm going to see you there. Where are we going to meet?
Right. I
will talk to you when I get there. Where are we meeting for lunch? You know what I mean? There's no, you know what I mean? Anybody that then chooses to talk, you know what I mean? Or if you're in person, and you're doing a deal with somebody and they're reiterating, like I said, what you're doing. Oh, so it's 2,000, right? Oh, so for the pound, are we going to be able to get more of these in the future? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say anything. I'd be like, Tony Soprano, oh, this pie is good. You know what I mean? You just don't say anything. You know what I mean? And I've had people try to, and that's why going through the situation that I'm going to tell you about, why I am here to tell the story today in good stead.
Right.
So long story short, get on the train, but not the LA Union Station train because there's a ton of security there. So you get on this little train station. There's nobody there. You're riding with Amish people and some black folk because it's run into Detroit and Chicago. Not a lot of people take the train anymore, you know? So would I take the train looking like this? Would I take the train looking like, with the baggy pants? No way. Take the train wearing the Ralph Lauren sweater, looking kind of like, I'm not really that threatening. And if I wanted to be cool, I just couldn't be that cool.
Right.
I wanted to be cool, but I just couldn't be that cool, And, if it's a duck, if it walks like a duck.
Quacks like a duck, yeah.
It's a duck, and we know that police profile and security, and they got about 30 seconds, any person in authority to kind of look at you and suss you out. you know? And so my friend was even kind enough, who I love, my man Pick, which is his real name, my man, was able to give me these glasses.
His mom didn't name him Pick?
Right. Horn rim, looking like Malcolm X's white cousin.
All right.
You know, horn rim with the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Perfect. You know what I mean? Get on the train. Now you got to have luggage. You got to have your luggage attached, little tags. And then you put your name on them. You don't write any false shit. You put, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's your luggage. You know what I'm saying? If you don't put the tags on, they go through to make sure that the tags are on the luggage. And if they don't see a luggage tag, guess what they see? Somebody's trying to run some product, because people do that.
Right.
But the only thing it says is, please notify a security representative if you see something suspicious. Well, there's nobody to notify. It's 9 o'clock at night when I'm getting on the train. And again, let's make sure that we're going to make it safe. We're driving overnight. We're going through the middle of night. We're going to be entering a train station in Flagstaff, Arizona at like 3 a.m. Now, unless somebody's waiting for me and knows that I'm coming, there's like no chance that I'm going to get in trouble, right? And very little, right? So I get the wait. I go inside the house, getting ready to plan my trip, which I just talked about. And I have to wrap it all up, because you can't just carry, 20 pounds like it is. So you got to get a food sealer, those little sealing meals, and you got to seal every pound. And you take a pound that's like this big and you break it down into a flat brick like this. And then you put it into another sealer. You wash your hands, right? Then you wash the bag and you put it into another sealer. You put them in the shower, you take 20 pounds, wash them all. Because guess what? You could put them in all these nice sealed bags that nobody could smell, that no dog could smell once you triple seal it. But guess what? You get some resin on the outside of the bag, and a dog will pick it up right away. And you know what I'm saying? So now you can pack up 20 pounds, like I said, around 100K, you know what I mean? Full net, you know what I mean? And you can carry that in 2 little bags. Get on the train and you're cool as a cucumber. You know what I'm saying? Just trying to blend in, you know what I mean? Trying to be the mark on the train, and heading back to a college, which is perfect. So now you get to Flagstaff and you're only 45 minutes north of your house. So what do you do then? You could have your car. All you got to do is just drive down this 2-lane canyon. Pretty safe. I've never seen police officers in that canyon. You think I drive my car down there with 20 pounds? No. No, son. You know what I mean? Only a fool would touch down on the streets with weight like that. You know what I mean? So what do? Well, you get somebody else to do it for you. You get a shuttle. You get a cab. You ever seen a cop pull over a shuttle bus?
No.
They just don't do it. Not unless there's somebody really doing something. You ever see a cop pull over a city bus?
No.
No. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so you get a shuttle, and the shuttle whisks you right to your safe area. And the shuttle driver's talking about smoking. I don't know what he's talking about. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he wants to be cool. And he has no idea. And you don't look like the guy. You know what I mean? You're just, you know what I'm saying? And you make it back and you're able to start breaking it down. So something that goes for 18, or you get for 18, get it there for 15, but here, 18. You know what I mean? 18 and then 32? So you're making probably 15 on each. Each month, a person could just easily distribute 20 of those. One person could take 2 a week. You're dealing with 5 different people. Now, again, you're not dealing with too many people, because if you're dealing with too many people, you're risking not knowing who you're dealing with. So long story short, we do that for a good little period of time, and I go on a couple of trips. I have to do a couple to prove myself, but now I'm getting DiGiorno. Delivery is DiGiorno. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It would always come in these military, those military like laundry bags?
Right.
There'd be 5 of those in there. So you're talking easily, 100, 120 pounds that are being moved across at these
kind of like mail bags, big mail bags.
Yeah, big,
kind of makes me think of big mail bags.
Yeah, no, and it's easy. It's like, and nobody can really tell. I remember getting it and pulling out of the trunk. I was like, oh, you guys got my laundry? Oh, no. And I'm walking in L.A., into my friend's ghetto apartment complex. Let's say out of Pulp Fiction. You know what I mean? Those, where Bruce Willis lived. You know what I mean? Yeah. Anyways, so I'm doing great, and we're eating steak. You know what I'm saying? We're, my wife and I, you know what I mean? Like, we're doing our little trips. It's just me, her, and my son. I'm not like balling out hard. You know what I mean? Come on. Making like 20, I don't know. you could do the math. You know what I mean? At 20 packs a month, fronting them off, always easy, fronting them off, getting 3 to 32. So I could make 12 to 14. You know what I mean? And I wasn't breaking any of it down. Occasionally, cutie pies, quarter pounds, we'll call them. You know what I mean? Here and there, doing well. And then, of course, well, the other shoe has to drop at some point in time. So I'm working with a friend of mine. I'm still working as a chef. At the time, I worked for this restaurant and owner for about 6 years. Never missed a day of work. You know what I mean? It was just solid employee. I'm at the time running the line as a chef and running packs, not out the back, but constantly setting up my deals so I can keep my things flowing. I like little 5 people I trust. Well, I go to drop off. A couple of things kind of happen and culminate. It begins with a girl that I'm working with is going to a company party, and she's getting packs that she's bringing in because she's from California. And she had mentioned to me, like, you need some weight, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I'm good. But by me saying I'm good, she knew that I was good, not like I didn't want any.
Right.
She's like, well, what are you getting them for? And I was like, well, I'm getting packs for cost. I'm not going to buy your packs that are coming out here. And what I'm charging for people. You know what I mean? Anyways, she gets busted on the way to a company party with a bunch of sacks. This little town, you know what I mean? They probably smoked some weed and got pulled over. You know what I mean? At night, the cops are very super predatory. They're like on the side of the main road. You know what I mean? Profiling and if you even look like you're not squared away, they might check you out. Especially at night.
No, I know. Some people they call it doing their job. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, or I call it profiling in certain areas, certainly. But with that being,
and they happen to catch this chick with bags.
I was pulled over and searched 7 times by the time I was 19 years old. You know how
you were selling dope, but
well, I looked like the guy. But yeah. Anyways, so I'm doing well, and I again mentioned to her just in passing because she's a server at the restaurant, and then time goes by. Then I go to drop off pound to my friend Doughboy. Shout out Doughboy, and anything I ever did, I did it in such a way that you wouldn't see it. So if I was delivering, I'll put on a shirt and a tie for you. I'll put on, back then I would try to not look this, like this, but more like businessy. And I used to carry around a briefcase.
Right.
And that's what I used to carry my weight in. And so I go into a business, and these people were business owners. So I go and see them. We go in the back, and it never looked completely, you might guess, oh, what's he doing? What's in there? But you have to know. And unless somebody's going to say, or you're going to catch that person with something, there's really not a lot you can do about it. You know what I mean? So long story short, I'm visiting and dropping off at a person's house. And I always, no matter where I am, I always make sure I'm covered. So I pull in my car, and I pull in up in front of his house, blocking his front door. It's in my truck at the time. But I get the out of this side, and I put it in. I used to like to carry a refrigerator box, like a little lunch freezer things that, keep your lunch cold.
Yeah.
Little, like a lunch bag. And that's what I would put them in. You know what I mean? You could just barely fit one in it. You know what I mean? And then I could also put that underneath my hood of my car, of which anytime I was driving, even around my town, I'd have it in the hood of my car. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you got to check the oil real quick. You know what I'm saying? People aren't even thinking about it. I don't know why. I actually had surveillance watching me while I did it once, and they had no idea. I'll go on to tell you the story. This is hilarious. So, I drop off the pound. I have no idea at the time. There's an investigation being run on the house next door. So here's my friend's house, the house here. Across the street is the narcotics task force running an investigation on this house next door who's selling meth, right? They've got a snitch by the name of Shaun Reese, the one-tooth bandit, who we used to call the one-tooth bandit growing up. And I realized why he snitched on us, because we used to call him that.
I was to say, he must be dead already too.
I don't know. I heard he got new teeth and he's in New Mexico. But he had those like real bad teeth from the mom let you have the bottle all day and the teeth never grew in. You know what I'm saying? You ever seen that where the teeth never grow in?
No.
It's from a mom that let the baby just sit on the bottle or a pacifier and never, like, and their teeth don't grow in. And so it was like, so we'd be like, I remember on probation once, or on like a work crew thing back in the day. He was on it and he's gumming down the sandwiches and, you know, we're making fun of him. And I understandably, I get why you did it because we were mean. You know what I mean? You know, but I heard he's got new teeth and he's living in New Mexico. You know what I'm saying?
Good for him.
Yeah, there you go. Hopefully the new teeth, you know, set him on play. But he ends up, and the reason they find out is because he comes in and picks up some from this guy who I went to school with. Mm-hmm. And then he comes over to my dude and double teams it, picks up a sack, double dipping, picks up a sack of 2 investigations, sets up these 2 dudes in one, and then asks the dude, yo, where are you getting this from? And Doughboy had to say, I'm getting it from Ian. You know, small town, want to be cool. You know what I mean? I'm getting it from Ian. I don't know. Anyways, but I got a lot of respect for Doughboy because he didn't say anything. He got rolled on. They hit him coming out of the bar. Again, they're going to catch you slipping. He liked to drink. They pulled him over coming out of the bar. Of course, he had a little and a pipe on him. Went back to his house because if they catch you with something like that, zero tolerance state, they're going to come back to your house and they're immediately going to get a warrant. Hit his house, found almost a fresh pound. I'd probably dropped off, 3 days ago because they're running an investigation. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I get a call. This is a friend of Doughboy's. He just wants you to let you know he got busted. And I'm like, I don't know who's calling me, first of all.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And I was like, okay, is he all right? He's like, I think he's going to be all right. And he's like, I'm kind of like a lawyer. I was like, who are you? And he's like, I'm like kind of like a lawyer friend of his. You know what I mean? He said, he just wanted to let you know. So looking back on it,
he probably told somebody in jail that was getting out, maybe, to, hey, call this number, tell this guy.
I don't know if it was that or if it was them calling me and fishing.
Oh, that doesn't seem.
I don't know, but I felt it was genuine, and I said thank you so much. I didn't say anything, I just said thank you so much. I hope he's all right, which I genuinely do. He's a good dude. Yeah. He's always been a good person and an honorable person. Did not snitch on me. Did not give the list of 10 names that they ask you for. Well, you know what I mean? When they roll on you, they ask you, and we'll go into this. You know what I'm saying? So, Doughboy's busted. My name has probably been mentioned by this other girl. I don't know this yet. I have no idea about this yet, but this is all kind of, and then, as they would say, my name is ringing in the streets. You know what I mean? Like I'm supplying, potentially, 20, I'm allegedly supplying 20 to 30 pounds of chronic a month to this little town and valley. There's, little town, and if you think about how many people smoke, in this little town, I'm generally supplying most of the people. And anybody that knows, I'm breaking down it from 5 people, and those 5 people are all in different towns or in different sectors. You know what I mean? Long story short, getting ready to go to work one day. And I've got my studio equipment, I got my little shirt, SM7B, you know what I mean? Got my nice setup. I got making some music. And I hear dog barking, my dog. And I was smoking a joint, you know what I mean? Put my joint down, put it, set it in the ashtray or whatever. And I go out and I walk out. And I'm just assuming it's going to be some regular person. And the music had been loud, so I didn't really hear all the knocking. I just hear my dog, Daz, get back, telling my little dog, my little miniature pincher. You know what I mean? Not fierce dog or anything. And man, I open up the door. And there are 4 or 5, maybe 5 narcotics officers standing on my porch. One's got the battering ram, and they got their name of their narcotics task. So I'm not going to say what it is because I'm not, I'm not going to go into the, you know what I mean? It's the local narcotics task force. They run the entire valley in our county, and immediately shut the door and lock it. And then boom, 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 sheriff's department, we're going to knock it down. And I just like, Opened it up, let them in. Boom, they come in, right? Now, I'm surprised as hell. Now, there have been a couple things leading up to this. One time, there was a car that drove by and was taken.
It was all the dope that led up to this.
No. There's a couple things.
All the sales and the drug dealing?
Yeah. The selling of high-quality cannabis goods pre-market, ahead of the curve, we can call that. So I had seen so I live in my rearview mirror. I've been basically doing illegal shit since I was, 15, 16 years old.
Right.
So even to this day, when I drive, you'll never get me for a ticket or anything like that. I live in my rearview mirror. It's just something that you build up from years of not wanting or waiting for an officer to get behind you so you can hide your. I'm always at least like carrying some on me. So I'm always a felony because it's a zero tolerance state. So like just living like that, and it's a minor shit, you know what I mean? But again, like the levels of paranoia, like I pretty much have PTSD from always doing that, and having to be in fear of the law and never really having I have had a respect and have met a few really good police officers. And I love the police officers in our town because it's a wealthy town and they don't prey on the individuals in the town.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a different thing. They pull people over for tickets, like speeding tickets. That's it. But long story short, they roll in and I'm like, what am I going to do? But I know that I don't have any weight on me because again, collateral damage. Think about what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Now, again, we had some things leading up to this. Somebody had driven by and somebody was like blatantly taking a picture as they drove by. Like they pulled up and we're outside and they're like, they weren't trying to hide. So my wife thought maybe they're taking a picture of the house next door. A suspicious car down the road one time when I was walking to go see a friend, that lived in the neighborhood. But apparently I've been under surveillance for 3 months and I really had no idea.
Right.
Whatsoever. You know what I mean? They don't do their own surveillance. This is a key point to the conversation. They hire out and subcontract their surveillance to PIs. And those PI departments often have people that have to issue bench warrants and summonses, right? They have to issue a summons.
Right.
The people that bring you and they like, oh, you've been served or whatever?
Yeah.
Right, okay. So we get a call from a little bird, and I cannot say who. My wife does. She gets a call. And essentially it's to the effect of, hey, some people have been getting busted in town. Did you hear about this person that got busted? And it was from a family friend person. Well, that person may have been related to this company that was running the investigation on us. So we were able to essentially, a couple of days before that happened, literally the week before that happened, maybe 3 days before, get a phone call that said, some things have been happening. Did you hear it? And it wasn't them saying, hey, something's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
They were just highlighting. It was a weird call, out of the blue. The person doesn't call or contact us we're not in regular contact with them, We would look back and realize that person was possibly connected, likely, with that. I don't want to go, into that agency.
Right. Trying to tell you, like, prepare yourself.
Because my wife's ex used to serve. My wife's ex used to work for that company and serve summons.
Okay.
But it wasn't him. But it wasn't him.
Right.
It was somebody else that just kind of gave the, you know what I mean? And so they came to the house and they caught me with 12 burnt joints, which was 12 roaches.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a little bit of a wrinkle. They caught me with an ounce of hash. Now, remember I talked about the hash before?
Mm-hmm.
I was making significant amounts and processing significant amounts of hash at the time. And there was nobody in town with it. And I mean nobody. You know what I mean? It's very rare. It's like an oddity. You know what I mean? You just don't see it at the time. And that was getting around. And there's one more person because I had not been introduced to somebody, but my same friend Doughboy had told me that somebody else that I had known from school wanted to connect. I ended up connecting with him, and I ended up only hooking him up with first some bud and then the hash. But I never did any hand-to-hands. Because again, these are some rules. Everybody is an undercover, literally. The person that you're talking to is wired. You're being watched. You're being surveilled.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if you take this into account, you're likely, nobody's going to see you do anything. So after 3 months of surveillance, and we'll get back to me sitting in the house after they've raided.
Right.
After 3 months of surveillance, they could not figure out whether or not I was really the guy or not. Because they came into my house and I had a little bit of hash. But here's the problem. In Arizona at the time, hash is still a narcotic.
Right.
It wasn't legal yet. We were still pre-legal cannabis.
Right.
And it's listed as a Schedule I narcotic, which is right up there with amphetamine, anything you could think of on that level. Here's the problem. If you have more than 7 grams, because in our state, the scourge of amphetamine, if you have more than 7 grams of any narcotic, it's a minimum 2.5 years in prison. I can't help you. Like, there's just nothing we can do. It's 2.5 years in prison.
And you clearly have it. I
have an ounce. Yeah. I've got 3 times that amount. I've got 4 times that amount.
They got a search warrant, and you've got it on you. Period.
And I'm not 100% sure if they have a search warrant at this time. In the heat of the, you know what I mean? You don't ask, let me see the warrant. You know what I mean? You assume.
Right.
You know? And so he's got me dead to rights on this. And he sets me down in my daughter's room. My wife, I don't know, has already been pulled over. She is in a she has a narcotics officer driving her car, and she is in the back with our kids. She had just left. It was my daughter's. It was January 29th, 2010. And I know that because my daughter's birthday was on January 28th. And I thank God that they didn't come during her birthday party or some shit. I think they had the respect to do that because they wanted to try to work with me. You know what I'm saying? Long story short, I'm sitting in my daughter's room with 3 of the narcotics officers, one who was very attractive, who was not with us. And he sets me down. He says, I know we didn't catch you with too much, but we got this hash, and I don't know what to do about it. You know what I'm saying? And the narcotics is over 7 grams, he says, and he's kind of, car salesmaning the situation, you know what I mean? And the car's got, 40,000 miles on it, and you know what I mean? And anyways, he said, I don't know what to do about this, and he says, maybe, you could help us out, you know what I mean? And I'm like, well, help you out? What am I going to help you out with? You know what I mean? He's like, well,
you already got Doughboy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. He's like, well, you give us a list of names. You know what I mean? I'm like, why would I want to do that? He says, well, again, we could be looking at some serious, 2.5, you got your kid, you know what I mean? He's got me in my daughter's room for dramatic effect.
Yeah.
He didn't sit me down in the living room where we were at earlier.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's got me in my daughter's room. You know what I mean? Like that's gonna, you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm sure for somebody looking at 20 years or something, they probably, you know what I mean? But anyways.
You're looking at 2.
Yeah, 2.5. Yeah, come on. You know what I mean? And again, so he's like, well, maybe you could just give me a list of the names, and I'm like, I don't know anybody. And I don't at this time. I mean, I know my people. Mm-hmm. Fuck it. You know what I mean? Come on. You know what I mean? He's like, well, you don't know anybody. And at this time, he's not found the weight. He knew he was going to come and find the weight.
Yeah, so he was hoping for a lot more than this. He was hoping for
20 pounds. 18 pounds. Yeah, you know what I mean? And I had just had a fresh delivery. I had fucking 18 packs still sitting somewhere else.
Yeah.
But you always keep it somewhere else where they can't just run a investigation on. They can't just search, and you always keep it with a square, because if it's with a square and they leave their house and they don't have dope with them, you can't pull them over and there's no way.
Yeah, you can't pull them over, search the car, say, "Oh, got you with this."
No, back to your house. You just, you know what I mean. Some grandpa, a square. You know what I mean. Maybe they don't even know it's there. Remember Ray Liotta and Goodfellas? They take the guns to the mom's house.
Oh yeah.
Oh, why are we always taking them to my mom's house? She says. You know what I mean. Always put the. I don't know if you remember that scene. They go in the mom's garage. The helicopter follow them.
Yeah.
They can't search their house. They're not, they're likely, they have to get a warrant. To get a warrant on somebody else's house that hasn't committed a crime, hasn't done anything, is next to impossible.
Right.
So long story short, I'm not feeling too bad. You know what I'm saying? He's like, well, this is going to be pretty serious. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, maybe he'll give us some bad guys. I'm like, I don't know any, I'm like, come on, I don't know any bad guys. Like, You know, I'm like, I'm a good guy. You know, I'm like, I know any bad guys, you know. And so you can see he's kind of like running out of steam. He's blown his popcorn fart of a bust. No offense. You know what I mean? And he's trying to lean on me like the car salesman with, this is going to be a big thing for you. You know what I mean? I just said, Lil, you know, like that scene. Have you ever seen The 25th Hour?
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Judge, I do have shingles, and it is a chronic medical condition. And I really only use this as my medicine. And I don't have any baggies, and I don't have any scales. And you know, it's going to be legal in like 4 months. And look, actually, the legislation just passed already in November. We're just waiting for them to write the legislation. So, you know, I literally said this to him.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, like I'm talking to him like the judge. Oh, you know, Judge. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like in that, it was hilarious. You know what I mean? And you can see he was discouraged. And at that point, he could really, you know, he's like, well, you're the guy. And I'm like, I'm not the guy. Doughboy was the guy. Because he already got Doughboy. You know what I mean? I'm like, Doughboy was the man. And it seems like it makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anyways, so he wants a list. And I just say, I can't help you. You know what I mean? He says, well, I'll tell you what. This is hilarious. All right? He says, you tell me whether or not you want to cooperate tomorrow. I'll let you go to work. Nice guy. So I'm like, you've just raided my house. I'm sitting here and I'm pretending like I don't know. Like I've not read every crime book. Like I don't know anything about, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. You want me to tell on somebody? Right. Oh, do I work for you? Right. Like, so do I work for you? I don't know. You know what I mean? You know, like just, you know, pretending. And he's like, so look, I'll tell you what. Talk tomorrow and you tell me if you want to cooperate or not. And I was like, this motherfucker let me out.
Right.
I said, what? He said, you give me your word. You'll call me tomorrow and tell me if you want to cooperate or not. And I looked at him and I was like, deal. Stuck out my hand.
Right.
I put it out so quick. He didn't know what he was shaking to. He had no idea what he was shaking to. And I'll go on. And I'm a man of my word. I shook the man's hand. And I promised him I would call him the next day at 10:30 and tell him if I wanted to cooperate or not. So what did I do? I pretended to go to work that night, which was up this town, like a town outside of Cottonwood where I live. And I have to go up to this little town. So I put on all my chef's gear in black because I'm planning to be in black that night anyways because I'm going to need to be in black. Get in my car and I drive up. And I make sure that I'm not being followed. And on the way, I've got one of my guys that I supply to that lives on the way to where I work at in this town in Jerome. Make sure I'm not followed. Boom, dip in, because it's a 2-lane, you know what I mean? Dip into his house, and I roll up, and I'm like, dude. He's like, what's going on? I just got busted. And he's like, you know what I mean? Like waiting for the cops to come in. You know what I mean? Because, you know, you just tell somebody you just got busted. Like, what the you doing here then? You know what I mean? Like, I'm running from the cops. What are you doing here? You know what I mean? I was like, I just got busted. And he's like, what the He's like, well, come in. You know what I mean? So I come in and I'm like, dude, I need to make some phone calls. I can't use my phone. You know what I mean? So I had my regular phone and I had a burner phone. Never use your regular phone. I still have that phone to this day. I've had that phone I've had the longest running cell phone number of almost anybody I know at 23 years. Do you know anybody that's had a cell phone number for 23 years? Mm-mm. Nobody. And that speaks a lot to credibility and to somebody that doesn't want to just disappear. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But I always had a burner because you use a burner. You know what I mean? And even on that, you don't say anything. You know what I'm saying? Funny story about the burner. I tried to put the burner into a cup of water to burn it. I'm starting getting texts like 30 minutes later. Those phones are nicer than my iPhone. You couldn't put an iPhone in water.
All right.
Hilarious. I'm joking. You know what I mean? So long story short, he gives me the opportunity. Boom. Well, they find a little bit of money. I like maybe $1,000 on me. You know what I mean? And the phone, and it was in an envelope, but I always write on the envelope car money or car savings. Like you designate, because you could be driving through a place with 10K, and if you don't have a designated reason for it, they're going to take it from you. They could if they see it. You know, you'd have to be able to prove receipts, and then you got to get it back. You know, it's a big deal. So long story short, they take a picture of the cell phone, and I know the way they laid it out, and they put the money out in the cell phone. They did it for a picture, for their own evidence. One thing they did, which is hilarious, is they took my passport. I had looked for my passport, I don't know how long after that, and I never found it. And I used to keep it right in my studio, of which that passport was awesome. Because I had stamps Michoacan, Guadalajara, London, Italy, you know, I mean, all over the world, you know what I'm saying? But long story short, he gave me the opportunity. So I go up there and I get on the phone immediately and don't go to work, which is the first time I've ever not gone to work as a no call, no show. We're getting close. Mm-hmm. Anyways, no call, no show. You're fired. But at this point, I've got other things to do. He's going to let me go and go to work. Well, I'm not going to work. I'm going to go pick up the weight and get rid of it because I don't know if they're going to hit the house. I don't know. At this point, I don't know what they've got. He mentioned in passing when we were in the house, he said, I almost picked you up today coming out of such and such place.
So he knows where it is. So he doesn't realize he knows where it is, but he knows where it is.
He was fishing.
Yeah.
He waited for me. He waited for my response. You know how you, if you say something immediately, you know what I mean? You bite. You know what I mean? So the whole time I'm sitting there, he's talking. And I'm just sitting there like this, just listening. Calm as a cucumber. Now my heart's racing inside. But like I told you before, in any seriously sticky situation, I get super calm. I'm probably more nervous here talking to you than I am in a situation getting raided. Like I actually start to yawn. You'll notice if I'm really nervous, I'll start to yawn. It's like a weird reaction, but it looks good because you're not, you know what I mean? You're totally chill, right? Long story short, go and wait till that night. I call my dude, my angel. My angel's in California. He sets me up with a guy in Sedona. That guy comes and meets me, picks me up, takes me to another car because I can't, my car's like burned. I'm not gonna be driving that around. Plus it's like a bright red Chevy truck. Like, you know, it's very distinct, you know? So he gets me a car, which is totally straight, like an old man's paperwork. You know what I mean? Like a squares car. You know what I mean? So then we go and we set up a time so that we can meet out at the spot so that I can go and get the weight. So this is probably, we set up for maybe like 9 o'clock at night. So we go and we have to park. I have to park the car. So like I pull off the main road and I pull off onto a side road, right? And I park the car here. Well, it's not really in front of anybody's house. It's just kind of like nondescript on the side of the road. I've got to run down this long, like a irrigation ditch. There's like 6 feet deep, 7 feet deep, these huge irrigation ditch, right? And they run behind people's properties, you know, like water irrigation culverts. So I'm in all black in my chef's uniform because it's, you know, black on black. And I dip the car and I tell my dude, I was like, come back in about 15 minutes. And we tried to time it as best we could, right? So I got a watch time. Boom, I go, I dip into the back place, pick up the packs. There's still 18 out of the 20 left because I just gotten a fresh delivery. Put the duffel bag on, and now I've got to run back down the ditch, huffing it down the ditch, boom, 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 just sweating and really paranoid, running with a decent sentence on my back. You know what I mean? Anyways, I end up making it to, there's like an overbridge. So, you know, there's always a bridge that goes over a gully, you know, because there has to be a bridge because it's a, you know, a gully, right? Anyways, I run as I'm getting up there. I see the lights coming, and it's at like 9 o'clock at night. It's in a pretty chill neighborhood. There's not a lot of police, or not a lot of like anybody out. I come running up, and as I come running up, I can see the lights, and I already have to go underneath the little bridge thing. It's a sheriff. Freaking sheriff out of nowhere is in like, you know, the sheriff's SUV. Well, it turns out what I'm assuming is I had parked the car there 15 minutes earlier. Somebody maybe had called on this car, like being out.
Right.
You know what I mean? So he sees the car. So I come running up and I'm underneath the bridge. He's literally pulling over. I thought it was gonna be my dude and the lights, and I ended up looking, it was him. He couldn't see me because I'm way, you know, it's 7 feet down and then dark, you know, pitch black, dark gully, you know what I mean? And I'm saying, he stops on the bridge, literally stops. You hear the little brake screech. And I'm just sitting there holding the duffel bag. And then I hear and I see him, the red from the brake lights start to pull off as he's starting to pull off. Anyways, he sees the car. So he's on the car, right? So he's trying to figure out what's up. But he stopped for a second to see if there was something weird going on in the gully. Oh, he ends up making it to the car. He's still in sight. I sneak up out of the gully, throw the bag right as I'm getting up out. Boom, bag's gone. I'm out of here. Run down the road, and I have to still make it back like, I don't know, quarter mile back to where I'm back to my safe spot,
right?
Where the weight was. You know what I mean? Because I can go in there. You know what I mean? Anyways, long story short, I ended up getting all the weight back to the dude. The dude picked it up like, I don't know, maybe like an hour later. Cause I told him, I said, there's a sheriff, you know what I mean? Keep it on the low. So he came back. Dude was able to get all his weight back. And to this day, I still have amazing credit. You know what I'm saying? With the guy, you know, if he were still in business, everything went legal and that's all, you know, but yeah, so the next morning I got up and I am a man of my word. I got up and I called the best lawyer I could find, which was the former prosecuting attorney for narcotics for over 15 years for the county, had started his own defense firm. And I went with that guy. I called him up. I got a $1,500 retainer. And I said, please let this dude know I've got a call with him at 10:30. Please let him know I do not wish to cooperate. Right. So just like the man of my word that I am, I got on the phone with Brett. We got on a three-way, the gentleman, and I said, I'm on the phone with you. I'm a man of my word, and I'm here to meet with you, and here's my lawyer. And my lawyer said, Ian Pedersen does not wish to cooperate with you.
All right.
Boom. So then we go back and forth. So I got to meet my lawyer, right? And sit down and talk about the case, right? So again, I haven't gotten arrested.
I hate to interrupt the podcast, but I need your help. Have you been, or do you know anyone that has been arrested in Polk County? If you have, please contact me. We are desperately looking for guests that have been arrested in Polk County by Grady Judd. The last video we did actually got 1 million views. If you've been arrested, please go in the description box. Either contact me directly, my email's there, or you can fill out the form that we've got. There's a link to the form. My email address is there. You fill out the form or email me. We will contact you, and we're going to try and get you on the program.
Amazing. You know what I mean? Thank you. You know what I'm saying? And basically, again, led the guy a little bit, but hey, I'm a man of my word. You know what I mean? I didn't agree to cooperate, but I didn't not agree. You know what I'm saying? So lawyer told him, we're going to not cooperate. Then this is where the car salesman stuff starts. So the guy is the leader of the narcotics.
Right.
He's the narcotics detective. He runs the show. He's, well, my boss is saying that this is going to be a problem. And, you know, if you don't cooperate, we could maybe even push for more than the 2.5 years. You know what I'm saying? You know, my boss is really wanting to push for this. And, you know, it's like, come on. Like, you know, it's like the car salesman guy. Oh, can I go authorize the free gear shifter for him? Yeah. You walk in there and talk to the dude for a second about his weekend and go back and say, yeah, I can authorize the $500 off in the gear shifter. You know what I mean? He doesn't run the cases. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But he's trying to lean on me, right? So the lawyer who I really thought was working with me ends up we're meeting for breakfast, and he's like, so, you know, if you want, you know, we can just squash this right now if you just cooperate. You know what I mean? And I just stopped and looked at him. I just said, look, you know, he's still standing up at the time because I'm sitting at my table and he's like kind of getting up. And I just said, if you mention it to me again, we're done. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not going to cooperate on this. It's going to go to a plea. Like we're not going to trial on an ounce of hash. You know what I mean? And even if I got to go and bite the bullet, I'm going to plea it out. My first offense.
Well, if you just drag it out until they pass the laws.
Yeah.
I mean, not that you didn't break the law when it was still illegal.
Oh, sure, 100%.
But I think that a judge would be like, fuck, you know. Like,
so that's what they're trying to do. And so I found out that's what they were doing with the hash because it was still a narcotic and they hadn't passed this law called any extraction or preparation thereof, making hash extraction, shatter, all these different cannabis extractions legal. Even when they made medical legal, because I actually worked to bring in the medical program and launch one of the first state licensed dispensaries in Arizona. Hash was still technically a narcotic, and they hadn't taken it off the books. And we actually had to work with the health department and with the state to change that law to make it to where it was essentially any extraction or preparation thereof the plant, right? And that's what it said on the books for medical, any extraction or preparation thereof. So that would fall into that category. But they're trying to kind of like get the low-hanging fruit at the end before it goes legal. They're trying to clean up all these cases. You know what I mean? Which rightfully so. I get it. You know what I mean? They got their job and I had mine at the time, you know? So long story short, I've got to do a self-surrender. You did a self-surrender? No? Or they got you dead to rights. And that was it.
They caught me with a dozen passports.
Oh, okay.
I'm not getting bond.
All right. Yeah. So, I essentially, I thought I was going to have to bond. So I'm ready. I've got a bond agent ready to go, and I'm ready to do my self-surrender. I got money put away. Yeah. I'm good.
They give you what is it? Released on your own recognizance? Is that what they give you?
Well, so we'll get to the story. So
ROR, sorry.
yeah, and I assume that possibly would happen. So in my case, I'm waiting to find out. It's like right around Valentine's Day. Yeah, because that's the year I was busted. They came in January 29th. So now it's been about 2 weeks. It's almost Valentine's Day. I remember this because the narcotics officer had a date and he couldn't meet me the next day for self-surrender. He's like, we're like I'm negotiating my own day to come in and surrender. This is awesome. You know what I mean? I got to say, it felt kind of cool. You know what I mean? I'm not like, I used to tell my wife at the time, my girlfriend at the time, you don't see me out here knocking over liquor stores with a Born to Lose tattoo on my neck.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
What is that? Oh, no, that's from Heat.
It is. I changed it to my neck, but the chest. You know what I mean? I'm here. I'm doing something. I'm doing it in a calculative way. I'm not going to risk our family. I'm not going to risk. I may risk a little bit of exposure for myself. You know what I'm saying? But I do have to give it to my wife. When they asked her and they questioned her and they sat her down, you know what I mean? She didn't say shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? She's solid. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. You know what I mean? So, and she didn't know.
Right.
Yeah. So long story short, let's see here. I'm supposed to do the self-surrender and then we postpone it. And I'm being threatened with this felony and I'm gonna have to go in the next day. Went and bought myself a nice new Ralph Lauren sweater so that I could see the judge in it. I'm all ready to be bonded out. And I get a call from the lawyer that night. He's like, okay, you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, oh, yeah, like we're doing this. Like, you know what I mean? Okay, I'll see you tomorrow morning at like 6 a.m. I got to show up to the county jail because I want to get out. I don't want to stay in. So I've already got my bond set up so I can get in and pay my bond, whatever it's going to be to get out. Anyways, long story short, I end up showing up there at 6 a.m. in the morning and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And I'm like, this sucks. Like, I'm waiting now to get arrested. You know what I mean? So I call my lawyer and I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, well, hey, Ian, what are you doing? You didn't get my call? And I was like, what? He's like, you didn't get my voicemail. I missed his voicemail. Okay, Ian, it looks like they're not going to proceed with any charges. Wait for a summons in the mail. So this is what makes me think they didn't have a warrant. He thought he was going to come and catch me with 18 or 20 pounds, allegedly. And I was going to fold immediately and roll on everybody. And you know what I mean? But instead, he caught me with little to nothing. I held my Constitution, got a lawyer, which was a smart thing to do. And then I ended up waiting 1 year. Nothing ever came. I didn't get shit because it was already medical by then.
Right.
You know what I mean? So a little popcorn fart of a bust. He could have, I think he could have still prosecuted me on the narcotics with the hash, but I don't, thinking back, I said, leave me with something. Because when they raided me and they wanted to leave, and I'm like, you're not leaving me with nothing. If you raid me and leave me without anything, people are going to think I rolled. I was like, give me some paperwork. Give me something. Like, I literally said, give me some charges. Like, give me something, because again, this is great to clear it up to this day, because I was able to walk away from the streets clean and then move into legal cannabis. A lot of people, maybe not a lot of people, but a few people would assume he got busted. He must have got rolled on. He must have flipped.
I would be shocked if they didn't have a warrant. They had to have a warrant.
Where
they're not showing up with a battering ram.
No, I'd like to highlight that in this little town that I live in.
Okay. What?
Things don't always go as kosher. We live in a town where I was once searched.
Probably get a warrant signed later.
I was searched once in my car and pulled over, and I tried to explain to him, why are you attempting to search me? I haven't done anything illegal. I'm not driving erratically. I haven't crossed any center lines. I don't have a rear light out. I just had stickers on my car. They pulled me over on the freeway, and some kids over on the freeway wanted to search us, right? That cop told me, when I said, what reason do you have? What probable cause do you have to search my vehicle? And you know what he said? He just looked at me and said, because I want to. Yeah. And he did. And they will. And they do. You know what I mean? And so I never saw a warrant. When I asked for a piece of paper, he could have left me with a warrant. They didn't leave me with shit. He didn't leave me with a Chinese menu.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You've seen that one, right? With the Chinese menu. You know what I mean? In Training Day, gives a lady a Chinese menu and says it's the warrant.
Oh, okay.
It's a classic. You know what I mean? But yeah, I do not believe that they had a warrant. I believe that they came. And they came all in undercover cars. They didn't come heavy. Like, they came in like all three nondescript. There was like a little Geo Metro outside and like a Chevy Tahoe, but not, these were, you know what I mean? They were like confiscated cars. But, and we'll talk about this, is later on, my brother would get pinched and arrested and put under a case by the same officer. He would later get his due. That same narcotics officer would catch my brother later on for hash. Moving forward, I think everything that we've talked about was building a skill set for me to be able to be a professional businessman and do things with honor, and do things in the right way. So looking at, somebody who is in that industry, you'd think, like you were saying earlier, you just get the weed, you sell it, you don't have all these other liabilities. You don't have to worry about typical overhead. You don't have to have a retail store. You're not paying taxes. On most drugs, and certainly cannabis, you might have 100% markup or a 50% margin, we'll call it, with that. So learning a little bit about the business and what mistakes you can make help you in the future with other businesses. So you learn about essentially budgeting. You learn about distribution. You learn about new markets. You learn about opening new markets. You learn about consignment, net 30s, net 15s. I didn't know what a net 30 was. I'd been doing it for net 15, which is basically we'll give you a product and you can hold on to that product for the next 2 weeks or 30 days, whatever the net is. And then you'll pay, And these are all standard distribution deals, things that I would employ later on, and realizing that, yes, where I succeeded in having a great product and being on time with my product and having a solid supply chain with that product, loss prevention. I mean, I could think of only a quarter pound that I have lost. 1 pound and 1/4 pound that I've lost in the entire time. So you think about loss prevention, as a store, So those comparisons, I think, are interesting in what bring you into a modern business, and give you, I guess, the fundamentals for being able to do those standard things like budget, have your source, have maybe an A supplier and a B supplier, and all these things would essentially play a huge role. Not just that, but of course my cultivation knowledge. So I've been living illegally, cultivating plants since 2001, probably about 10 years up until this point, off and on. And I've been busted or raided, but not served any time. And of course, beat all charges on that bust we talked about. But now I'm ready to take my skills as it's just going legal and move into something more credible. So my wife and I started the first caregivers company association in Arizona, which is Medical AZ Caregivers, MMAZ Caregivers. And this was pre-dispensaries, pre-legislation. So the laws had been voted in, but I like to be ahead of the curve and have always been ahead of the curve in many different things we could go into, but with this specifically. And so what became a nefarious, illegal skill now is turning into something that multi-million-dollar companies are looking for. Huge investors are looking for that skill to cultivate because it's going to be legal, and this is now the green boom, and we're going to see this huge boom in the cannabis industry. And so basically taking that illegal knowledge, I decided to open a business in the space, and I opened up a cultivation store, essentially like the ones I used to have to go down to get the cultivation products, and opened up the first one in our town, and ended up working with a dispensary, the first dispensary licensee at the time. They had just been given their license, and doing some co-branding. And then they found out about my skills in cultivating, of which nobody had any skills in cultivating or any real skills in cultivating. And I was able to prove that by showing them product. From that time, I had my own genetics that I had been developing and essentially working on over a period of time. And as a cultivator, you have your own genetics that you develop and you keep. You keep a mother for a year or two, or you keep this genetic line going, because it takes time, as we said before, and losing those genetics is terrible. I was able to take those genetics and essentially work out a deal with the first dispensary holder in northern Arizona to launch the largest state licensed dispensary at the time in Arizona at over 10,000 square feet. So this is a really interesting scenario for me because I've been living a constant illegal life with cannabis. Now, I have been holding down jobs, of course, respectable person, but completely on the other side of the law. And now it is my job and responsibility in a new partnership to launch the state licensed cultivation to work with the city managers, the chief of police, the head of the SWAT team, well, the commander and chief of the SWAT team. He's passed on now, Jody McCooch. He was an amazing guy. And the entire city to put in some of these legal operations. So I'm immediately from one side of the fence to the other, which is for me really, really hard to wrap my mind around. Because just a year ago, a year and a half before that, it was about 2 years, I'm getting arrested and charged with cannabis and nearly avoiding peril with those charges. And now I'm heading the largest state licensed cultivation in our area. I'm working with the most credible people in the town to do so. And I have the knowledge to do it, which nobody else does. I ended up working with an investor who was the professor of anthropology at U of A. He's most well known for developing the Human Genome Project. I don't know if you know the Human Genome Project, where they map the genome. That was mapped out of U of A, out of the anthropology department, under this particular professor's watch. And he was also a state legislator at the time. And so I ended up getting the opportunity to launch the cultivation in our area because he had somewhat of an issue with one of the county attorneys for Maricopa at the time. And he was going to be risking some exposure because this is all so new and medical, and even though it's medical still, he was going to be risking some political exposure. So I ended up spearheading the whole thing, and I was the person that had and was most responsible for setting it up, running it, and of course bringing in all my genetics for it. Ended up setting that facility up and working in essentially the first research for cannabis. So this is really where I take all of the love for the plant and really what the plant has taught me over time about myself, and decide to make a serious go at researching the plant. So my dad always told me, do your homework. And, whilst I'm not a physician, you don't have to be a physician to understand plant physiology or the physiology of the human body and how this plant can affect it. And so over the many years, I've become the first and only that I know, at least in the United States, dedicated medical hemp researcher that essentially I give accredited medical lectures to physicians, DOs, MDs, PhDs. Let's see here. Have founded studies and work with children with neurological disorders, humans with neuropathic issues, work with cell proliferation, cancer. Probably worked and touched almost every living being, including experimental research with rare white Bengal tigers and lions using cannabis treatments for cancer or for anxiety. An interesting scenario is we were working with one of the particular guests out of Africa Wildlife Park in Arizona, and there was a 130-pound albino boa with a 7-inch tumor that had grown, and they heard about our research and ended up meeting up with them and going out and treating the snake over a 7-week period. And it's like the star of the show. It's a 130-pound snake that everybody gets to touch and see, you know what I mean, as well as some of the other animals and mammals. And that 7-inch tumor over a 7-week period shrunk by over 85% to about 1.5 inches and died. And so just interesting to see the effects of leaving psychoactive, which is, hey, the weed gets you high, you know what I mean, to non-psychoactive beneficial cannabinoids in the plant physiology that can help people for so many different things. Blood disorders, arthritis, fibromyalgia, cancer treatments, as we're seeing right now, neurological disorders, MS, leukemia. And out of our little small town, we ended up launching our product and our story of this little girl, the miracle of baby Kirsten, she's known online as. and essentially taking that company from an $800 investment, and this is crazy, to over 8 figures, as I was telling Colby. So we've done over $10 million in revenue, sold over 1 million units of our product over time in the past since 2016. In the meantime, I've started multiple other companies and we work in the space, but we've gone completely into non-psychoactive CBD research. And so that's where, as a medical hemp researcher, I'm out essentially educating physicians on the benefits of it and trying to really break new ground so that we can forward the industry. We've been able to launch nationally, and we've been able to affect many, many different people. And we're also heavily involved in the pet space as well, because it's branched out into helping pets as well, and work with some. We work with some of the top brands in the pet space. That was that Forbes article that you saw that I sent you over. I was featured in. So yeah. So to date, I've been featured in, for our work. I thought I was going to maybe be on the cover of the newspaper or the cover of the news for something like you. Something, either way, let's put it that way. It was going to be either way. I don't know if you've ever thought about that. Was it going to be either way? You were going to be on there for something? Did you ever think about that?
I mean, no, I didn't.
Okay, I did.
I was,
I did
hoping to fly under the radar the rest of my whole life.
Oh boy. Yeah. Well, I'd had a feeling that, it was going to make a splash in something, you know what I mean? And end up, hopefully it wasn't going to be for something negative. And I'm glad that it wasn't, Back to the Future switch, he's busted, or he ends up launching state licensed facility, helping children, just a much better snitches. He snitches, life's a choose your own adventure. There's many different times in your life. And again, if I was looking at 20 years, I may have considered as well. I'm not going to take anything away from that. You know what I mean? But I do believe that I made my own decisions, and nobody else is going to pay for my decisions,
Hey, you guys, I really appreciate you watching. If you like the video, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos like this. Also, we're going to leave all of Ian's links in the description box, so you can just click on it, go straight to the website, go straight to the podcast, and subscribe and follow and do everything that you feel comfortable with. Leave me a comment, share the video. Please consider joining our Patreon. It really does help us. It's $10 a month. We put Patreon exclusive content on the site. So please check it out. Thank you very much. See ya.